If you're building software with AI, then you've probably felt this. The code comes out faster than you can review it. So the code piles up and the QA list piles up, and then you or your team become the bottleneck because you carefully read every single line that AI wrote because shipping something that you haven't read feels reckless or unprofessional. Well, my take on that is that bottleneck isn't the price of building with AI, it's a symptom. It's a symptom of micromanaging your coding agents. In this video, I'll show you the mindset shift that removes that. So we're moving our energy out of line-by-line code review and into upfront planning and verification loops. And then I'll show you the exact system that I use in my real builds. So by the end, you'll see how you can gain confidence in your code base when it's being written by AI. All right, so you probably know this problem well because I see builders and teams hitting it all the time. You bring AI into your workflow and the initial feeling is speed. You're building features in an afternoon that used to take weeks. But then that QA and code review bottleneck shows up. And so now you're spending your days reading AI-generated diffs, and your senior engineers become full-time code reviewers. And so all your speed gains are lost because your QA list keeps growing faster than it shrinks. And so the instinct, the totally reasonable instinct, is to slow down and review harder and read every line and trust nothing. Now, besides the fact that that's the type of work that really nobody likes to do, it's exactly what's holding you back, because the problem isn't that AI writes bad code. The problem is you don't trust the code that AI writes. And there's a difference there, and it's our job now to fix that trust problem. So here's the thing. Reviewing every line of AI written code is micromanaging. I mean, think about how this works with people. If you hire a capable engineer and then hover over their shoulder, dictating how they write every function, two things happen. That engineer never lives up to their potential because you're preventing them from using their brain, and it takes twice as long to ship anything. So you don't even get the payoff of investing in growing your team. So here's what's changed with today's best frontier models compared to what we had back in 2025. I find that the less prescriptive I am about exactly how the agent writes my code, and the more energy I put into planning and spec writing, the better the models are at producing well-architected, verifiable code bases. And believe me, I learned this the hard way because I built the tool for the old approach. So back in 2025, I created Agent OS, and that was built around a whole system of what I called standards files, which help you document exactly how you want your agents to write your code. And back then, for models of that time, they needed scaffolding to keep them on the rails. But over the past year, with newer models like Claude Opus and Fable and GPT 5.6 Sol, these frontier models and their harnesses took major leaps forward. And so, despite being the guy who created Agent OS, by 2026, I stopped using it in my own projects. Prescriptive scaffolding just stopped being helpful because I find that today's models get really good when you give them well-crafted instructions, and their quality degrades when you micromanage their internal workflows. So let me show you how we actually move away from reviewing every line of code without losing that trust that AI will build what we need. But real quick, if you're new here, I'm Brian Castle. I help builders sharpen how they work as building with AI becomes the norm. And every Friday, I send my builder briefing. It's free, it's a 5-minute read, and it's my honest take on what's actually holding up in AI-first development and what isn't. So you can head over to buildermethods.com to get on that. So here's the shift, and it's the one idea that I want you to take away from this video. Own the what and the proof. Let go of the how. The what is the planning. Shaping the product, writing the spec, designing the architecture. That's where you transfer your vision, and it's where your judgment and your experience as a builder matters the most. The proof is the verification. So these are the loops that let your agent demonstrate that the code works with evidence without you reading it. And the how is the code itself. So that's the part that we need to become comfortable with delegating. Now, to be clear, this is not vibe coding. This is the professional approach that became the norm in 2026. Engineers write zero or near zero code and pour all of their energy into shaping, planning, designing, and building verification loops. So you're not abandoning rigor. You're moving it to two places where it actually compounds, before the build and after it. Now, your actual workflow may vary, but let me show you what it's looking like for me these days. Now, what I'll do today is give you a little bit of a snapshot into what my real projects look like. Now, I have a couple of recent videos here on the channel where I showed the entire process end to end from planning to actually building and refining and finishing a full application. I think there are like 3 recent videos. This was actually the code base from one of them where I built a real estate CRM app. This was the code base for it. It's a Ruby on Rails app. And as I showed in the other video, this is the folder called build plan. And this is generated from an agent skill that I created called PRD Creator. I created it a couple months ago, and it really powers all of my building workflow these days. But now one of the things that it does is it creates this folder, and inside that it has this PRD. And the PRD is actually an HTML file. And so I'll just show you that here. We called that application deal flow. And so this was like the detailed product requirements document here. So kind of the high level overview of what the features are. And then we got a little bit into the data model. So, really deep architectural planning, being sort of strategic, putting our product hat on, using my product experience, my building experience to plan out these data models and their relationships and things like that. And then we go through and plan out the milestones of how we're going to build this in chunks. And, in each milestone, we've got a list of what's going to get built and what is not in this milestone. So we went in detail into like what's in scope, what's out of scope. And so each one of those milestones was built out with these folders. And I've showed this process a couple times here on the channel where each milestone got this prompt. This was also generated by my PRD Creator skill. So, this is a little bit of like a framework and some, I guess you could say it's kind of like scaffolding, but really all this is managing my building process for having Claude Code implement. After I've gone through and made this really detailed PRD document for this product that we're building, and after we've broken it out into milestones, for each milestone, I still had it run this prompt in plan mode, in Claude Code, tabbing over to plan mode on. And so that's like another layer of planning after my actual product planning. And so I think that the difference between planning the PRD, that's like my plan for my vision and requirements and scope and what's going into this product. But when we go into plan mode, Claude Code reads the PRD, reads what we're trying to do in, let's say, milestone 1, and then Claude is going to create its own implementation plan. And so that is Claude's plan for how it's going to code this up. Now, as I showed in the other videos, I usually don't review that coding implementation plan all that closely, although I do. I give it a once over. I'll spot any like naming things or anything that I might think is kind of out of place. But by the time we get up to that level, we've already done so much detailed planning in this PRD that I'm already pretty confident. I already have a pretty high level of trust that the implementation plan is going to be pretty accurate to what we've already scoped out in this PRD. So then it goes through and actually does the work of milestone 1. But while it does that, it jots down its own notes in milestone log. And it does that for each of the milestones. Now, again, like these are some technical notes. I don't necessarily need to go through and read these in detail, but I had it just create a simple bullet list just to inform me of like what has been done in milestone 1. That makes it really fast and easy for me to review the work to say like, okay, milestone 1 is done. Now we have a contacts area. Now we have the ability to browse and search. Cool. And I can go in and test it out in the browser and check it out. Really, the rest of this technical stuff is really for Claude itself, so that when we get up to milestone 2, Claude Code can look back at the milestone log and get all these little technical notes of what's been done. Where did we left off? What were some micro like coding decisions that the first Claude Code made that we need to pass along to the second Claude Code? So like for me as a professional builder and engineer in the process, like I'm engineering this process. I put together the PRD process and the way that I prompt and break out these milestones, and I informed it on how I want it to create these little log files so that it can confidently go from one milestone to the next. And that's the process that's been working for me. Now, I mentioned that I plan in layers, so we have like the PRD phase, which produces this. And then we get into like plan mode where Claude Code creates its implementation plan. But actually, let me step back even further, like earlier in the process. Where does the PRD actually come from, right? So typically, if it's like a big new product or a new tool that I'm creating, even before I create the PRD, I usually go into Claude itself and do a really big planning session here. So actually recently I built a new tool called Flywrite. How did I go about doing this? I started with a conversation in Claude where I said, hey, I want to build this Mac app. Here's sort of what I have in mind. And I gave it this pretty big initial kind of brain dump. But then you can see we have this really long back and forth planning, scoping, shaping conversation where I'm going back and forth. I'm asking questions. Claude is helping me make some technical decisions on this stuff. I'm getting a couple of like artifacts that I can then pull out and then bring into Claude Code and use that to generate the official PRD for a new product. So that's all the planning work. And that's really where all of my time and emphasis and energy is being spent these days, in layers and layers of shaping and then locking in the plan in the PRD, and then having Claude Code break it out into milestones, and then having it use plan mode to go to plan its coding implementation. And then finally I let it code. And so all that work up front gives me that confidence, gives me that trust that it's working. Now, one more thing here, and that comes into play here, is I really want my coding agent to be able to self-verify and make sure that the work that it's doing is really good. And this is another layer, and this is where we get into like these verification loops, right? So what I'm about to show you here is sort of the difference between getting a coding agent like Claude Code to build something and get it like 75% of the way there versus having it build and getting it like 95% of the way there. And that really cuts down the amount of time that I need to spend reviewing it and carefully QAing it and giving Claude Code fixes and changes, right? So the way that Claude Code is able to check its own work is setting up these like self-verification loops or directives, if you will. There's different, ways you can go about doing this, but I keep it kind of simple. And I'm going to show you what I do. There's basically two things that I instruct Claude to do in all of the work that it does. And I have that detailed in my claude.md file under testing and verification. So there's a lot of extra info in here that is sort of specific to my code base. But the main thing is I'm telling it after implementing any significant feature, you need to have a full test suite and it has to pass 100%, meaning it's going to write test coverage for all of the code, and it has to make sure that those tests all pass before claiming that the work is done. That's a good first step. That doesn't catch everything, and especially it doesn't catch the UI, the front end layer. So how do I get it to self-verify its work there? Well, for that, I have a directive here that says for any front end UI changes or features, I want you to verify using the agent browser skill. So this is the agent browser skill. It's put out by the team at Vercel. It's excellent for having coding agents be able to fire up web browsers and click around and fill out forms and do things. It's really good for that. And I'm telling it to do that, like use agent browser skill to test that all the user paths and flows actually work end to end and they're accessible. And then what I'm also telling it is for anything new, any new pages, any new layouts, anytime we change the UI, anything that where I would normally need to spend time like double checking that, does that look right? Is the button in the right place? Is the spacing and right? I'm telling it to use Agent Browser to take a screenshot, and it does that quite often. So every time it does that, it goes into this temp folder and screenshots, and it actually takes screenshots of the work that it's doing. So I don't necessarily need to go in and look at these screenshots, but these are screenshots that Claude Code itself will snap, and then it will look at and analyze these screenshots to make sure that like every part of the process and every part of the UI meets the spec of what I'm giving it. And it's the combination of the test coverage and the UI verification layer with these screenshots and the agent browser skill that really gets it to a level where when it gets back to my desk and it's ready for me to review this milestone, yes, I still need to click through and make sure that like the critical user paths are all good. And yes, I might need to do a few refinements here and there, but it's really most of the time like 90% of the way there at least. Now, is every build 100% pristine and perfect every time? No. I always do a few rounds of refinements, but these are almost never about fixing bugs or correcting things that AI missed. And they're almost always about things that I couldn't foresee, refinements that I could only make or ask Claude to make once I actually see the feature in a browser. Now, here's the payoff. It's the reason that this matters beyond just saving you review time. When trust comes from planning and verification instead of from reading every line of code, the size of what you can build is no longer capped by your reading speed or the time that you have to throw at code review. That's the real unlock. The less we micromanage today's models, the more their most advanced capabilities we get access to. So you can take on projects with a scope that would have felt reckless before, but now is actually doable because you don't need to bury yourself or your team under a mountain of QA and code review. You just need to commit to a robust spec-driven development approach. Now, everything I showed here today, from planning out the PRD to the milestones to the verification loops, all of that is included in my video where I showed a complete end-to-end process of taking an idea from planning to shipping a real app. Now, before you go watch that one, hit subscribe so you don't miss my next video on building with AI, and I'll see you over there next. Let's keep building.